Good morning, just. Best learning, according to Professor John Hattie, takes place in the first 5 minutes of a lesson. So, as a teacher, and in your case, is supporting, being able to start with a bang is key. And what I really want to do is put together some ideas in the time we've got that are going to make a difference. Now, one of the things we find with dyslexic students in particular, and many of our think faster students generally, is it needs to be explicit. If it's too implicit, if it's too wordy, if it's too theoretical, it takes them a while to get into it. So one of the issues is we have a situation where our guys understand it but can't always read it. So we need some solutions. So here you are, you're supporting in class. Now I'm a secondary teacher, and every technique I'm going to share with you, I have done. Not every student will accept them. Okay, now I do accept that. Not every student I have worked with is prepared to adopt some of the techniques I'm going to share with you. This one in particular depends very much on the student. However, when the students do, we're away. So, quick quiz, okay? I'd like you to find for me that passage. You've got it A4 size. Okay? Now, here's the question. Feel free to shout out, okay? If you have ADHD, you may shout out. It's quite acceptable, okay? How many words out of 10, or no, yes, how many words out of 10 have you got to be able to read automatically in order to comprehend a passage like that? What sort of percentage? 5 words, 50%, 6 words, 60%, 100%? What do you reckon? For comprehension. How about punt? What do you think? Shout out. Be brave.
60%?
60%, great. Go with 60%. Okay. Any changes on that? Thank you, and thank you for starting.
80.
80's okay. 60, 80. Come on. Be bloody bold and resolute. Come on. Don't be shy. One more.
40.
40. Okay. Brilliant. Now the actual figure benchmarks in research is 8.5.
Wow.
You've got to be able to read 8.5 words out of 10 to comprehend automatically. There's very little margin for error in comprehension. In fact, if you struggle on more than 1 or 2 words per 10, what happens is that most of your brain power goes on decoding rather than comprehension. And an over-reliance on decoding wrecks comprehension. Now, I'm a passionate teacher of phonics. As a secondary teacher, as a secondary Senko, I was still teaching phonics to 14 and 15-year-olds if they needed it, and I believe they do. But an over-reliance is a problem. Alongside teaching that structure, we need whole language skills. So how do we overcome this? Well, we could do guided reading. You could read a bit, your student could read a bit. Yeah. But the best way to deal with a situation like this, actually, is called paired reading. And paired reading is where 2 people read out loud together at the same time. Now, I say this to teachers when I do whole school training, paired reading. If you've got students who can understand all the concepts in an article, like any article here, all the concepts, all the ideas, but they can't read the words necessarily at the 8.5 out of 10, how do we access it? We could give them easier reading, but that would dumb down the concepts. And you teach students, don't you support students who understand everything that's going on in class. They just can't read it. They just can't write it. So I thought we'll start with paired reading. I want to give you a chance to show what it feels like, and then we'll do it for a purpose, okay? So what I'd like you to imagine, please, is you are one student now, okay? I am your support worker, and what we're going to do is we are going to read this passage. Now, what I'd like you and your partner to do is have one passage between you. Could you do that? One passage between you, first of all. And one of you, I would like you to be the lead reader. And in fact, you're going to be the pointer. What I'd like you to do, please, is point to the top of the words, not the bottom of the words. It's really important you point to the top. If you obscure the bottom of the words, you can't read the word. If by accidentally you obscure the top of the words, you can read the word. So when you point, when you're reading, please, point to the tops of words as you go along, because that helps. What we're going to do after 3 is read it out loud together in unison and preferably simultaneously. Okay? Ready? After 3. 1, 2, 3. Jack and Richard were cousins. They were also very good friends, and they liked playing together. And that's what it sounds like. Now, if I'm teaching and you're supporting, and we've got a comprehension passage, what I would hope you would do, if your student will accept it, because not all students will, but you quietly pair reading that passage with your student, it's going to be loads more effective than you read a bit, he read a bit, or you read it through, or whatever. Because when you pair read, you cannot help but interact with it. But we're going to add another layer to this now. Because what we're going to do is pair read for basic ordering ideas. The basic ordering ideas are the key themes under which things are organised. I think it was Anne's term, BOIs. And I've given you the BOIs for this passage, which is when, where, characters, and events. So what you and your partner are going to do in a minute is you're going to pair read this and try and find our basic ordering ideas. From our point of view then, as supporters of students, when I as the teacher give you a passage to work with, it's important that either I tell you what the basic ordering ideas are, or you very quickly skim and scan it to work out what they are. Once you've got the basic ordering ideas, you can then help your student work through. It's very hard if you read slowly to read it, understand it, and sort out the BOIs. Okay, but I've given you the BOIs, so we're away. What we're going to do this time is pair read it again. I'll model it to start with. Every time you come across a when or a where or a character or an event, you stop. Okay? Whoever spots it first stops. Now what you need to do then is to highlight it, mark it, underline it. It works best when you colour code it. We're not going to colour code, it'll take too long. Okay? Please don't colour code, please resist the temptation. Okay? Girls, don't colour code. Boys, you want to colour code anyway, I understand that. But no, don't do it. But when you have time, colour coding is best. What I want you to do though, is when you come across a when or a where or a character or an event, just stop. And the discussion is, what have you found? How few words can we highlight in order to make the point? Okay? Now I'm going to model it first of all, so once again we'll do this in unison. Okay? So, somebody getting ready to point to the top of the words for me? After 3, 1, 2, 3. Jack and Richard were cousins. Well done. You're on the ball. Oh, I'm so impressed. Yeah, we found Jack, we found Richard. Let's highlight, underline that for me, please. If you think cousins is relevant, you could do cousins. Now look, we've got characters, don't need it anymore. What I'd like you to do for me, please, is to continue very quietly pair reading with your partner, and we're looking for when things happened, where they happened, and the events that actually occurred during the story. We said keep it explicit. At the moment it's implicit because it's on paper. You haven't done anything with it. I'm talking to a group this afternoon where I'll be talking about memory, working memory, and there's no doubt that students who think faster than they read and they write and they spell remember what they do. So part of our challenge in our secondary setting is to interpret often the teacher's instructions and make them a little bit more explicit so that it becomes locked into our students' memory. And of course the key is multisensory. When if you think about primary school, you think about early years, you think about multisensory. Multisensory is just as important as sixth form. And when I've been teaching sixth form, I've gone multisensory. When I teach students on my master's course, multisensory. You've got to get your hands on it. So what we're going to try and do now is turn this passage into something a bit more multisensory. And what I've done is I've dropped post-its around as I've gone. Okay. What I'd like you and your partner to do is one of you start at the top and one of you start at the bottom, and basically anything that's been underlined, would you write each piece of information on a separate post-it? Hang on a minute, please don't start. Watching the girls very carefully. Okay, don't start. Write each thing on a separate post-it, and if a picture comes into your mind, please illustrate it. If you think a picture does it better than words, please use a picture instead of words. But can you get this information onto separate post-its, please, as quickly as possible? Have you noticed how much interaction is going on? You are really, really talking about this issue. You're making decisions, You are communicating, you are going underneath the layers. Remarkable. What I'd like you to do now, please, is would you use your post-its to create for me a when, where, characters and events flowchart as best you can. Can you do that for me? Create me a flowchart. If this has worked, I'm putting you in the role of students who understand their concepts but can't necessarily read it accurately at that level. If I've done this right, though, you should be able to demonstrate complete understanding of this passage. So without referring to your post-its, and resist it unless you need to cheat. Your self-esteem requires you to cheat, you may cheat, but I'd prefer you not to. Without looking at your post-its, without looking at the passage, tell your partner, please, the relationship between Jack and Richard. What's the relationship between Jack and Richard? Very good. Yeah? Tell your partner when this all took place. When did it all take place? Now, if you said middle of summer, I give you a tick. Just one day, I give you 2. Yeah, because you want detail. Yeah? Okay. Tell your partner whatever information you can remember about Jack's new toy. Yeah. Remote control, aeroplane, yeah, that's what we want. Tell your partner where did this all take place, please. Okay, we're doing really well. All right, look, I could go on. The question I would like to ask, though, is at what point did you actually sit down to revise all that information? The answer, of course, you didn't.
No.
The reason you know it is because you've interacted with it. The reason you know it is because I, in my role, made the implicit explicit. Now, I think a key part of our role as supporters, as teaching assistants and so on, is to mediate between the teacher task and the student task, and to create a situation in which the student is empowered to show what he knows, show what she knows in ways that suit them. And I've never yet found a student who has not found this to be an excellent way. Whether it's history, geography, science, you name it. Whether or not you need to do the paired reading is up to you. Whether your student will accept it is up to them. But this idea of basic ordering ideas, highlighting the key points, making it explicit, post-its, reorganising, it just works. The next few slides aren't on your handout as such because I was trying to save the tree, but we're going to go on to favourite tweaks, and I'll just share a few of these. Here's Simeon. Simeon's had a spelling test. Look, you're experienced people. You're used to reading. You actually haven't got these slides. No, please don't look. Number 16. Any guesses what he's writing? I will say so. 17? Yeah. 18? 19? No. No. Saw, yeah. Yeah. Simeon's one of these boys who reverses little words. Was, saw, pip, tip, top, yeah, all those. He can even reverse mum. Not many people can do this. And he drives his teachers crazy because he doesn't reverse hospital or banana. And they think he's doing it deliberately. What they don't realise is it's to do with the way that Sim sees stuff. Now, in fact, like 30% of the population, when they see black font on white paper, it can look like this. 30%, nearly 1 in 3. Okay? Black font on white paper. Or it can look like that. Now, that's not a reading difficulty, but it is a seeing difficulty. It's not associated with dyslexia. If you need coloured lenses, coloured paper, coloured overlays, it doesn't mean you're dyslexic, but a lot of students who are dyslexic actually suffer from this condition. Okay? So we mustn't say that's what it is. However, by making a decision not to use white paper, it makes it better. So just out of curiosity, has anybody had any success with a student by changing the background colour of the paper or using overlays? Anybody? Yes?
I have visually impaired students.
Okay, that's fine.
She also used to have green paper or
Yeah.
yellow overlay.
Okay. The current research suggests that blue's probably the catch-all colour. Blue is the catch-all colour. So what I would do for you, what I would say in your work is, I don't think I've got any. Oh, haven't I thrown up? Ooh, maybe I haven't. You know the plastic? Yes, oh, I've got some. Look at that. There we go. These things work. Okay? So if you've got a student who is looking at work a bit odd, you can raid the cupboard, raid the store cupboard, and get a load of different coloured wallets. Okay? And say, look, I'll tell you what, just try putting the work in these and see if it makes a difference. Now, it may not. 2/3 it won't. But somebody goes, oh! And you say, what's the matter? The words have stopped moving. And this guy's thinking, ever since he or she learned to read, had to read the words quickly before they fell off the page. Now, the research into this is not very good. And it's quite hard to replicate. But anecdotally, this makes a huge difference. So, from your point of view again, an easy intervention, I know you go around the school like pack rats with loads of stuff to carry, I understand that. But a few plastic wallets could make the difference. Okay? Get a range of different colours and just see if it works. If it doesn't, not an issue. If it does, it can be a game changer. If it does make a significant difference, then share it with the teachers, talk about how we contact parents, and we see where we go from here. But these things make a significant difference to some students. And interestingly, it'll make a difference to some students who will not receive support, but actually will read better as a result. So, play with the colours, you can do it, and it's a very, very easy intervention. Have you got anybody with handwriting like that? Yeah, just a few, yeah? My immediate response to that would be handwriting practice, or maybe a pen grip or something like that. Not anymore, because for many, many students, I can sort that out in 10 seconds with a highlight pen, because this is the same student 10 seconds later. And all I did was, I ran the thickness of a highlighter along the bottom half of the line, and said to the student, get writing. In many cases, this isn't coordinational, it's spatial. It's where on the line does it go? Where on the line does it go? The minute you put this line in, it locates this is the same child. I will say it again. This is the same student. So, here I am, in my big secondary school in North Wales, where I live, with my students. So, we discovered this, so I started making paper. And I started experimenting with different coloured lines. And this is one line, split in two. I tried grayscale, I tried blue. Grayscale works a treat. So I used the tables program in Word. I knew it worked because students would beat a trail to my door. Knock on the door, Mr. Mackay, yes. We've heard about your special paper. We've been told to write something neat and been threatened with death. And I got fed up with supplying the whole school with paper. So we started knocking it out by the ream. There it is. It makes such a difference. So let me show you what difference it makes. So here's Ken. This is some work I've been doing in Hong Kong. 14-year-old, okay, writing in a Chinese lad. All over the place, yeah? Terrible. The teacher did what you can do, put the highlighted line in. And then what the teacher did was write some of Ken's writing on the highlighted line. So show Ken how you go above the highlight and below the highlight to make it work. Does that make sense? Yeah? So you're modelling it, aren't you? Ken then traced over it. So what have we got? We've got our two lines. We split our line in half. We've shaded this bit. And then the teacher has written the cat. And then Ken has traced over it. So he gets the feel for going above the line and below the line. Okay? Let me show you the impact of this. Because the following day, Ken had a writing test for English. Now at the moment he's going to get what? 4 out of 20 on a good day. So the teacher went home and highlighted up a sheet of paper like this. Okay? All the highlighted lines are in. And then Ken sat the test. Now look at the impact. That was yesterday. Okay? That's today. It's a no-brainer again, isn't it? Yeah? All the you can't see the lines because they didn't copy very well. But they're obviously there, aren't they? Yeah? So what you know for certain is that every line has got a highlighted bit. Yeah? And what a difference. That's the real Ken. That's the real Ken. That's the Ken with a problem. That's the Ken with an accommodation. What stops us doing that? Absolutely nothing. Except student permission. Ask the student first. Show them how it works. Offer them the opportunity. If they reject it, they will. Some will. Yeah, of course they will. But those who don't will suddenly realise, wow, I've got a lifeline. Once again, anybody played with this? Had a go? Okay, please try. Please, it's marvellous. And I can see no reason why you can't do that in GCSE. This one has changed the way I work very And this one is actually saying draw first. So what I'm going to say to you as well, for some of your students, if they're stuck, if they've hit a wall, ask them to draw their ideas. Because many of them will have it in their mind's eye, but they can't quite get it out. And this is a primary worksheet, which is actually saying draw and describe. So what I'm saying, when I talk to whole staff groups, I do a lot of whole school training, or everybody, we say, look, give your students a choice. Let's demand a diagram or a picture. Let's demand writing, but you have a choice which you do first. I'd rather write first. I draw better after I've written. Many students write better after they draw. Put a time limit on it though, because some of our students are pretty smart and they think, if I spend all this drawing, I'm going to write. Okay? So you might want to carry a little sound timer or a kitchen timer. You can draw for that long. But just get those drawings done and the writing will flow. So, and whether it can be in a margin, it can be on a separate piece of paper, just get the drawing out first and it makes a difference. And here's somebody who's really got it all. Almost got it all. He's got his highlighted lines, that's pretty neat. He's got a worksheet on a pastel shade of paper. Any colour is better than white. The only thing he's missing, I would argue, the thing to add to that would be paragraph starters. So I think we should carry with us, or in our heads, a little menu of paragraph starters. So just those captions to get them going. And there are probably only 10 or 12 paragraph starters in the world that you could use. First, next, after that, then, also, however, but.
In conclusion.
So, in conclusion, oops, I forgot. Yeah. And those on a working wall, those on a laminated sheet that you have, there it goes, boom, which one are you going to choose? 10 of those, and your students are going to be away. So it links quite nicely with that. So those are some nice quick fixes which we can do for the guys. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, oh yeah, perhaps I will do this. The power of alternative evidence is really quite important. And you'll work with many students who do get a picture in their mind's eye, and then who perhaps don't feel that that is an appropriate way to work. So I'll just show you some work that I was doing. I was doing volcanoes. I was interested to see Mount Etna here. And I said to my students, look, if you hovered over the scene of a volcanic eruption and you look down, what would you see? And most of the class were going to write it. But I had a student who knew all the ideas, but he struggled with his writing. So I said, your job is to draw it for me. Okay, what would you see? So here's the question. You're hovering over the scene of a volcanic eruption. You're looking down. What would you see? I'll show you what the student did. 2 questions. Is it visible learning? In other words, can you see what he knows? And 2, do you think the teacher could mark it? Yeah? So if you'd empowered this student to produce this alternative evidence, is it markable? What do you think? So there he is. Looking down. This is a reference to the people baked in the ash in Pompeii. Notice eruption, all the right letters in the wrong order. Does that give us a clue? This student's learning need? Probably does. Right. Does he know? What do you think? Does he know what you would see if you looked down at a volcanic eruption? I would say he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now here's the next question: is could you tick it? Could a teacher mark it against the marks?
Yeah, because it's in the
correct order.
It's all. I think it's all there. It's not brilliant. I'm not saying it's 20 out of 20. I'll tell you what, it's a darn sight more than I get if I said write it. So in fact, what you've done, if you translated my task into this, is you've empowered that student to show what he knows. And I can mark it. Now I know there might be some negotiation between teachers and you. But where this negotiation, if you said to me, Neil, can he do a, I said, yeah, too right. Because what this shows to me is that I actually have been effective. Yeah? What about the main features of a medieval cottage? What do you think? Does she know? Can we mark it? I think the peasant's face says it all, don't you? But that's markable, isn't it? Yeah? She really knows. So once again, if you had created that by negotiation with me, I'm going to be really thrilled. Because it shows that although this girl can't necessarily write it yet, she is bang on the money. Yeah? She's good. She's really good. And what I'm going to say is that if the spelling is close enough from our point of view, what I'd love you to talk to your teachers about is how accurate does spelling need to be? How accurate does it need to be? Come GCSE, you are still going to get more marks for great language spelt wrongly than boring language spelt right. So the feline recline on the Persian carpet with spelling mistakes is worth more than the cat sat on the mat spelt right. So going for language is critical. So let's talk about close enough spelling. So if we know what you mean, it's probably right, which is what that slide's, this one here. Do we know what this student is trying to communicate? Yes, we do. We do. Yeah, we do. And in fact, although the sentence doesn't come out quite the way the student meant, but the phrase, "I would like to see the wild beasts roaming the plain," is actually magnificent. Yeah, it's a really good sentence. I've been trying to work out which airline this is. I'd like to fly with it. So one of the things we do realise is that when you're supporting your students with spelling, is that if we go for letter by letter build-up, it overloads the working memory. Because generally speaking, working memory can't handle more than about 7 bits. Once you go beyond 7 bits, you're pushing your luck. And many of the students you work with may not have the best working memory in the world. However, you can chunk jargon words through syllabification. So the rule of thumb here, and I'm sure many of you do this, is if you can clap it, you should be able to spell it. If clapping isn't cool, and it may not be cool if you're 15 or 16, a little tap on the knee or a tap on the table does it. But most jargon words are clappable. You're doing history, doing science, you're doing maths, hypotenuse. Yeah? Syllabification. I've been teaching, got a 7-year-old boy who wants to spell polyunsaturated. I don't know why, but he does. He can do it if he can clap it. If he can do polyunsaturated, he's on his way. But once again, we need to make it explicit. And you know what? I'm going to do it. So, how do we make spelling explicit? What I'd like you to do, please, is to tear a strip off the bottom of your handout to give yourself a piece of paper. Okay, a strip of paper. Okay, there we go. That's what you need. Okay, there you go. This again is going to be my principle of if we can make things explicit for our students, it's far, far, far more successful than being implicit. At the moment, this is implicit because it's on a screen, it's on paper. I'm going to teach you to spell a word. Theoretically, this would be a word you've already spelt wrong. Okay? If you see what I mean. But I'm going to try and choose a word that you may not have come across before, and then we'll teach it. This is a Victorian word. It means confused or unclear. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to tell you what the word is, and you're going to repeat it with me, and you're either going to clap it or tap it. I don't mind how you do it, but I want you to say it with rhythm and do something physical at the same time. Okay? So the word is obfuscated. Okay? With me, clapping or tapping, obfuscated. Now then, we need to stretch this word. Okay? We need to stretch it, so we make it long. So let's do it more slowly than we want to. Ready with me? Obfuscated. One more time, even more slowly. Obfuscated. Now, in a minute, please, I want you to say it syllable by syllable. Write it syllable by syllable and leave a gap between each syllable. You've got to say it when you write it, please. Please do that. And you've probably got something like that or something like that. Yeah, one or two, doesn't really. If you haven't seen me, please. One or the other. One or the other. Okay. Now, if you've got a double S, please, guys, you're confusing a syllable with a word. If you've got a K, you're confusing a syllable with a word. We won't go there. Now, it's still a bit implicit, so let's make it explicit. Would you tear it into its syllables, please? Tear it into its syllables. And then syllable talking and rebuild it. Syllable talking and rebuild it. Right, muddle it up and do it again. Muddle it up and do it again. Okay? Now then, there is a process which you've heard about, which I'm sure you teach, which is called look, cover, write, check, yeah? And it doesn't work. Unless you do this first. And the reason it doesn't work is because it is implicit and it's mono-channel. You're only really using one or two channels. What you've done is made this multi-sensory. Now, once you've got to this point, now you can look, cover, write, and check. So would you do that? Look, cover, write, and check. Okay? Now I'm going to say to you that's going to work with most regular jargon polysyllabic words. Even if you've got a double S here, we still know what you mean and you'll get credit for using a big word. Now, people say to me, oh, haven't got the time to do this, but we've got the time to moan about the fact they're not spelling the words correctly for years and years and years. So, my advice to you is to go and guillotine up some strips of paper and have them talk your students through, and the students who are prepared to accept this technique will find it hugely valuable. And the psychology of this is impeccable. What we're doing is we're taking a word which has got 10, 12, 13, 14 bits, which is far too many to remember, into something which is memorable. And there's something strange, even if students haven't got this sound symbol correspondence, they're not firm on it, they seem to get syllables. Syllables seem to be a bite-sized chunk that work. Okay? And you can play with it. This has come from primary stuff, but you know, I'm using it more and more in secondary. You can say to your students, well, I'll tell you what, let's do it with you. Let's do photosynthesis. Say photosynthesis for me, please. Say photosynthesis without the pho. Very good. Say photosynthesis without the toe. Say photosynthesis without the sin. Say photosynthesis and change the toe to a grow. Very good, very good. Now what I'm forcing you to do is interact with the word. Okay? Now this is developing phonological awareness. So you can take some of those jargon words and you can try any of these techniques. Delete this, add an extra. And once again, you're playing with the words, you're getting your students into the syllable structure in a way you wouldn't do normally. And my students found it useful. I hope yours will too. Okay. Finally then, I'm going to look at comprehension, because that's a key thing. And what we've said already is that our students understand more than they read. We can read it to them, yes, but that's passive. When they pair read it, we interact with it. Is there anything else we can do to take them through? And I'm going to argue now for the power of contextualized guessing. Okay, guessing from context. Because although reading accurately is important, you don't have to be able to read every word to understand. So although you do need to be able to read 8.5 words accurately for comprehension, if there's no help or any clues, if there are help, there is cues, you can do it a different way. I'm going to argue that when you get a passage, the first thing we do is read the title. We do not read it. Do not let your students read the passage all the way through before they start. Please do not let them do that. It is a waste of their time. Because if they come across words they can't read, they're completely stuck. So where do we start? We start with the title. Now 50% of the students in this school will not start with the title. And they're called boys. Okay? With all apologies to boys. But we don't do titles, do we, boys? We want to go straight into the reading and get it done. But if you can get the boys to read the title, it's quite helpful. Because we can make a contextualized guess. We then use captions and pictures to validate the guess or otherwise. Now we're in the ballpark. Do we read it? No, we don't. We read the questions next. That's smart. I would say to my students, I'll say it to the students I've got this afternoon, if you're in an exam setting and you've messed up your time management, you're short on time, read the questions first. But in fact, if you've done the title, the captions and the pictures, you say, right, read the questions. How many can you answer before you read the passage? I really want you to ask your students those questions, please, okay? We'll look at the title, look at the captions, look at the pictures. How many questions do you think we can get now? And that hooks them in. It really hooks them in. Ah, because it's working smart, you see. And what my students like to be smart. The passage is called Torrey Canyon. Now, when you do this with students, they've never heard of Torrey Canyon. You say, what's it about? They say, you know what, it's about a canyon called Torrey. And why not? Why not? Given the evidence you've got, it's valid, isn't it? Okay, it's about Torrey Canyon. So now we'll do titles, captions, pictures. Torrey Canyon seabed returns to normal after... Oh, they say it's a canyon which is underwater. There's been an oil spill and the seabed has recovered. Perfect is wrong, but it's valid. Right, let's do captions and pictures. Wildlife disaster, dead seabird. Using the wrong charts. Oh, charts? Where's that come from? What uses charts? Boat, two sharp ships, planes. Okay, I say hold that thought, because it's a bit of conflict here, but just hold it. Okay, good. Okay, the Royal Navy steps in, big picture there. The big clean-up, what's going on there, we say. And they say, oh, yeah, cleaning up birds. And there's the bioremediation gives hope. So we've done very quickly title, captions, pictures. Now, if we've done this correctly, we should be able to ask some questions, shouldn't we? Let's see if we can. Okay, could you tell your neighbour when the Torrey Canyon ran aground? Okay, you've got 2 marks for looking at captions and pictures. Very good. Question number 2, nobody will get this one. What was the ship carrying? Oil. Oh yeah, so now we've got 4. Now, ship! Ah! This is where they say, oh, the Torrey Canyon, it must be a ship. And that links with that. Now, by not telling them, but by making them work it out, you're now into the passage. So now it's about a ship, it's called Torrey Canyon. Very good. And it ran aground in 1967. It was carrying oil. Right. Can you tell your neighbour 2 reasons why the ship may have gone aground? You can tell them one. Using the wrong charts, which again confirms the ship thing. Now, the second reason's here. You don't know it yet, but you know what you've done? You've located where the second answer will be. And that's really important. Okay, so what you could do is you could highlight that question and put a highlighted colour here to know to come back to there to find the second mark. Yeah? So we're working smart all the time. Smart, smart, smart. How did the Royal Navy help? Now, when you ask students that, they say the Navy set fire to it. Which is intelligent but wrong. Okay? You say, great, go with that. Because the next question tells you the answer. And this is why you read the questions first. Because often, question 4 is answered by question 5. And it is here, look. Look at question 5. Describe the scene at the bombing of the wreck. So if you've written down the Navy set fire, you don't cross it out, no, the Navy bombed it. You're working smart. You're working smart. And we can go on and on and on in this way. So I'm going to finish at this point. There will be students in classes that you go into who don't receive support, who can read all these words beautifully, and actually cannot make connections. We're talking here about students who can understand it, but can't necessarily make the reading work for them. So in this way, we're working smart rather than hard. So I'm going to finish at this point. And what I tried to do is talk about making it explicit. Okay? We have Jack's New Aeroplane. You pair read it, We highlight it, we might colour code, but it depends on our ability to pull out the basic ordering ideas first of all. Okay? Then we turn it to something else, and guess what? We know our answers. We looked at some tweaks. In particular, we looked at the impact of overlays, wherever it's gone, overlays, and things like this. These are in your gift, please. You can do this, and also the highlighted lines. From there, we looked at the power of spelling jargon words. Your students will be amazed how effective they can be with this. They will be able to use the word, to spell the words they use in their normal language, which is fantastic. And then I finished off with contextualized guessing. The whole principle is that it's my view that we are supporting loads of students who think it faster than they read it, write it, and spell it. And using these techniques, you can get them on and up. And there's at least one adult here who has completely exceeded the teacher expectations through an ability to work smart, to use intelligence, and not allow teachers to associate accurate reading and spelling with intelligence. I'll say it again, we must not associate accurate reading and accurate spelling with intelligence. And you have a tremendous gift to give to your students to make sure that their intelligence shines through. I thank you for your time, and I hope you found the ideas useful.
Thank you very much.